Really. I mean, I think that I'm one of those people that sort of likes change and also likes to build things. And I'm probably, I wouldn't say that I get bored when things are steady, but I do tend to look around for new challenges. I've never been in a job or a role for more than a few years at a time, but I haven't jumped around organizations. I've just sort of evolved what I've been doing.
Okay.
I don't really know why. I'm a little restless. I don't really know why. It's enough to keep me motivated and to sort of do. There aren't many people probably at 60 in my circle of friends who would have taken a new job once they were in a really good job and moved. And my wife and I have this weird thing now. We've been married 37 years where we often are not together every weeknight, and it's more like something you do in your 30s or 40s. So there's something different about my approach to that, but I don't really know why.
Yeah, and when you look back at sort of some of these career changes and pivots, is there been correlation to your personal life, whether, getting married, having kids, any other sort of personal life milestones that have impacted the professional or vice versa?
I wouldn't say there's a direct correlation. I think that, I don't think there's a direct correlation. I would say there's more of a pattern of, I'm still doing new things. I mean, I'm taking up Pilates, for example, just to keep myself a little more flexible as I get older. In Seattle, I got time to do it at night, twice a week. I just kind of a little bit of a life learner. I'm not extreme. It's not like I'm, reading books on how to build airplanes. I'm just a little bit that way.
Yeah. And so this is great, by the way. Thank you. So you've learned a lot about business along the way, finances, kind of services that have been available. And in how would you say your business approach has related to your personal approach? Or if you had to describe your business approach, what would it be?
You mean in my career?
Yes.
Oh, I would say I'm a big believer in servant leadership. There's a book by Jim Collins, Good to Great, that you may have heard of, and talks about that. I'm a big believer in, I was an athlete, so team is important, and I believe that the higher you go in an organization, the more important it is to be humble and to try to hire the best people and mentor them, but get out of the way as much as possible. That doesn't mean I'm not hands-on. I'm probably more hands-on than I should be, but I aspire to build organizations and teams, and not necessarily individual. I don't think that individuals are the way that things get done anymore. Life is too complicated, and things are too interdependent. So that's probably my philosophy. And my parents were not highly educated or highly trained professionals, so they were more working class. So I'm more of a little bit more, just in general, more of a person who will try to engage different levels of the organization.
Nice. And this is great. Kind of pivoting to the people or services or organizations that have supported you along your journey. It sounds like a lot of what you've done has been kind of self-directed and proactive, and just in terms of you seeking out new challenges and having a distinctive approach. Have there been folks along the way that have helped support you?
Everybody has supported me along the way, but there hasn't been if what you're poking at is, have there been key and maybe this isn't what you're asking, key like advisors of, I'm thinking of like paid advisors to me or things like that. Not really. I haven't. We use a lot of coaches at the Hutch for executive coaching. I have not myself been subjected to, or I've not used executive coaching. I have brought executive coaches into some of my vice presidents, but I've not had a coach myself, but I've been around the coaching setting quite a bit. And, I've had my share of Myers-Briggs tests and, various leadership development activities I've participated in. I'm not sure if that's what you're asking.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about kind of how that's worked or not worked for you, the leadership coaching, and maybe not for you with regard to executive coaching, but how do you view that?
I think that it can be effective. I've come to the Hutch, and I think that our culture here is a little like Portland, and that people are not. I'm a big believer in being direct but constructive, and I think in the Northwest people are indirect and passive aggressive, even though I'm from the Northwest. So I'm really, I think, I'm fairly good at. It's one of my strengths, I think, is bringing good direct feedback in a constructive manner to people, whether it's my direct reports or my peers or even my boss. I think that we can't be successful if we don't have the information we need to be successful. And what I find is a lot of cultures are really conflict avoidant, thinking conflict is bad, or feedback avoidant. And I think that at the Hutch, at least, we have used coaches either as therapists, which is a waste of resources, or as a substitute for actual performance management and constructive coaching and feedback, as we as leaders need to do, actually. That said, there are coaching conversations and project development opportunities that coaches can help with uniquely. So I think there's a place for coaches, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
And I think there's a place for leadership. I'm very much a believer in leadership development, team development, and individual leadership development, and we're working on enhancing those at this organization, and I was pretty involved in that at OHSU. And then there were budget cuts, and they cut back on some of those, and I think we shortchanged. Our people are most important, by far, most important asset in any organization, but especially in healthcare and research environments. So people tend to underinvest in those, but not every one of them is, used that well or is as results oriented as I would like. So we're working on those things, but I think they can be very valuable. I have learned a lot about my own tendencies, which I've tried to bring into my marriage, frankly, because, if you read books on feedback, people get reactive because we're triggered. Every human is triggered by, fight or flight and by various things that we're all triggered by. And I've learned to be less reactive and manage my own defensiveness or other reactions. And it's actually, I'm pretty good at it at the workplace, but after being married 37 years, I still have to work on that. So it's been useful.
Nice. I'll have to take some of that home.
I would advise you to do that, honestly. I mean, I'll tell you one thing that we do in marriages and relationships. It's called switch tracking. Your spouse says, I am really tired of the fact that you never do the laundry, and your spouse says, well, when was the last time, you got the car washed? And that is the classic example of switch tracking. Your complaint about your spouse not washing the car is probably completely legitimate, but is irrelevant to the feedback they're giving. So instead of listening to the feedback and responding it, we deflect back. And that happens in the workplace all the time. Mm-hmm. Probably happens between you and your colleague that's taking notes here.
We have just the perfect relationship. No, I'm kidding.
Perfect work environment. Okay.
Yeah, no. This is really helpful, and I think it's really great to understand your perspective and some of these supports that have, helped you and teammates and colleagues. and utilizing